Um, so when I first noticed the burnout, honestly, I ignored it for a really long time until I could not stay awake to save my life. I was not able to drive.
There's a moment in life when your body stops whispering and starts shouting, enough. For Semi Stoltz, the moment came in the form of chronic burnout, mentally, emotionally, and physically. A biomedical researcher with a passion for neurobiology, Semi was used to finding answers in the lab. But when her own health started to crumble, she realized the solution wasn't going to come from a pill or a protocol alone. It had to come from the inside too. Through a powerful blend of neuroscience, epigenetics, and deep self trust, Semi became the scientist of her own healing. She rewired her nervous system, reversed her symptoms, and built a life rooted in energy, clarity, and purpose. Today, through her platform, Shine In and Out, she's helping others to do the same, combining evidence based science with soul led practices to help people feel more vibrant from the inside out. Sammy, welcome to Positive Vibes.
Thank you so much. What a beautiful introduction. Couldn't have said it better myself.
You're welcome. It's all your work, Sammy. So take the kudos for that.
Thanks.
So, Sammy, can you take us back to the moment when you realized you were in chronic burnout, not just feeling a bit tired?
Wow, it was like you said, it stopped whispering and it started yelling. Um,
Mm,
so it was probably my junior year of high school, and I know that that's quite early, but I had put myself under chronic stress since as long as I could remember. Even in kindergarten, I had the most intense anxiety, daily panic attacks, everything. And, that's just, having anxiety. I can't control that. But as I've gotten older, I've gotten so much better at understanding it and trusting myself to be all right in every situation. Um, so when I first noticed the burnout, honestly, I ignored it for a really long time until I could not stay awake to save my life. I was
mm,
not able to drive because I would fall asleep behind the wheel. I had to talk
mm,
to all of my professors and say, I am all about respect and please don't take it as anything other than a medical thing, but I can't help falling asleep in your class.
mm,
And I would have energy drink in one hand, I would have, you know, spicy food in the other, trying to keep myself awake,
mm,
um, and still fall asleep sitting up. And in addition to that, it was the chronic pain, the aches, you know, never felt comfortable in my body, tossing and turning, standing hurt, sitting hurt, walking hurt.
mm,
So there was really no rest outside of sleep.
mm,
And even then it was difficult. So it became, I had to not only shift everything I was doing, but shift my entire life perspective because
mm.
what mattered to me at those times were perfectionism, grades, getting into college, you know, prime SAT, president of clubs, sports, and whatever.
Yeah.
And I went to a fibromyalgia specialist, and they had a um, psychiatrist on hand. And they sat me down and they were like, this is not going to last. You
Mm,
cannot live in this chronic perfectionism and stress, and you're gonna have to get B's, my friend. And I was like,
mm,
"Oh." It was
mm.
I resisted. I resisted as much as
Yeah.
possible, but I hit that point where I couldn't do it anymore. I wasn't
Yeah.
functional and I wanted to be myself and I wanted to be able to make a
Mm,
difference in the world.
yeah.
Um, let alone in my daily life.
Yeah.
So, um, I
Yeah.
changed my priorities
Yeah.
to health. Without health, you have nothing. You
Yeah.
can't, be with the people you love in the way that you want to. You can't succeed in the way you want to. And just feeling safe in your own body like you want
Mm.
to. Um, so it was
Yeah.
an entire life shift more than
Mm.
anything else.
It sounds quite burdensome what you went through, but I want to delve a little bit more on the how you said you weren't functional. What were the signs your body and mind were completely out of balance?
I mean, biologically, we know it was my cortisol levels.
Mm.
I had been in chronic stress for so long that my adrenal system and my nervous system just said, okay, no more.
Yeah.
We've done everything we could. We've pushed you in fight or flight for years now. And there's a stopping point, there's a breaking point when in nature you are chased by a predator
Mm.
and you have a fight or flight response, and then you relax and you move forward into rest and digest. I was holding myself with my thoughts and my lifestyle and the pressure that I put on myself in fight or flight consistently. And our bodies are not meant to live that
Mm.
way. And it made it very clear by the end.
Yeah.
I couldn't stay awake, like I said. I was aches and pains. I, at some points, remember in college going up and down my stairs to my apartment every day. Every single step was like a huge deal. It
Mm.
was pain in my knees, having to like focus and get through it. And after I did all of this work and with my health, with my mindset, with exercise, with food, with everything, soul
Mm.
work, trying to understand myself as a person, psychology, neuroscience, all
Yeah.
of it, I, and this was years later, I'm going down the stairs again and I started crying because I realized how easy it was to go down the stairs and how very little
Yeah.
pain that I had. And I was
Yeah.
like, oh my gosh, like I started living normally without acknowledging that I was way beyond what I was feeling before. And
Yeah.
so that moment of gratitude was like, wow, I've done it.
Yeah.
And it made me feel like, okay, we can heal ourselves. We don't
Yeah.
need medicine.
Yeah.
We don't need to take 8 different pills. And even then, is it sustainable? Because you're still not listening to your body. You're just
Yeah.
trying to band-aid everything.
Mm.
And so it became my life's journey to help people heal themselves, feel
Yeah.
empowered that they can do it.
So, in those early days when you're going through everything that you were going through, how did it feel as a scientist to realize that you had to stop outsourcing your authority over your own health?
It There was some aspects of my upbringing and my life that made it a little easier to want to avoid
Hmm.
medical intervention. Um, because my dad actually had his own struggles with chronic pain and fatigue
Yeah.
and fibromyalgia, and he was on opioids for 30 years. And he claims that they got
Mm.
him through law school and he was very grateful to them. But when the epidemic came around, he couldn't get his medicine or
Yeah.
he would get less than he needed. And he would be in excruciating pain day in and day out. And also in incredible stress. Am I going to be able to get this medicine? So one day he just said, I can't.
Mm.
We were having to drive to pharmacies for him like hours away, hoping to get a compounded, version of his medicine. And he said, I can't do this anymore. I can't live like
Mm.
this. So he decided to withdraw, but we had to have a live-in nurse for a year
Mm.
because 30 years on opioids, you can't just go cold turkey. You
Oh,
could
no.
die. So seeing him be so reliant on a substance
Mm.
made me realize, okay, I'm young. I can prevent it from getting worse at the very least. I can do what I can to reverse the symptoms, and I can definitely do what I can to avoid being reliant on something that is outside of my control in so many
Mm,
ways.
yeah. Yeah. So to see your dad go through that, that would have been, it's such a beautiful lesson. It's sort of that bittersweet, a beautiful lesson for you to see and make that realization for you. But it was bittersweet for the fact that your dad had to go through that and have 30 years of opioid addiction and then have to go through the withdrawal, but it gave you the answers for where you are today. So, just in regards to, I know you talk about retaining your nervous system. What
Mhm.
does that actually mean in everyday life?
So, a lot of people, I gave a speech at this conference, and all of these students came up to me afterwards. How do
Mm,
you balance, taking care of yourself and doing everything else? And so what I do is I try to help people schedule it into their life
mm,
because if you don't make it a priority, it will never come. It
mm.
is so easy to brush over it, keep working at the computer, but you have to set alarms to get up, go for a walk. You have
Yeah.
to take your ritual time with your coffee and just let your mind be unentertained for a minute. I think we're
Mm,
so overstimulated in our daily lives with our technology and our media and
hmm.
our immediate surroundings even that we're never quite calm and quiet. We
Yeah.
never allow ourselves to just be.
Mm,
And so I think we've seen incredible rises in chronic illness. And I believe this to be a great contributor, not only the chronic stress that people are under, but the inability or the unwillingness to take the time to
yeah.
reset.
Yeah.
Um, even
Yeah.
if it's just 10 minutes of just sitting and focusing on your breath.
Yeah. So just further on that, what were some of the tools or daily practices that started making a difference for you?
So it was really, I was mindful every moment of the day.
Mm,
You know, when I got up in the morning, I was mindful of the thoughts that came into my head instead of, you know, oh boy, I'm in a lot of pain. How am I going to do this today? I shifted my thoughts to, I do this every day. I'm going to be
mm,
great. All I have to do is get through the next moment. All I have to do is get through the next moment.
mm,
And every time you get through the next moment, you prove to yourself that you can. And
mm.
so I made it a point to make it clear to my body that I'm here and I see it and I want to take care of it. And
Yeah.
I'm sorry that I didn't before
Mm,
and that I took my health for granted. So I meal prepped. I made whole food, made sure I was getting all my nutrients, my vitamins, all of that. And when I was eating, I did so mindfully instead of, just shoveling it in and moving to the next
yeah.
thing because that's not you're still in fight or flight and your body can't rest and digest if you're in fight or flight.
Mm,
So taking the time to mindfully eat and
yeah.
do everything in a mindful way. And instead of sitting in my chair for 8 hours straight studying, I
Mm,
would get up at least every hour and take a lap around my neighborhood. And just the difference that it made, I started, as I was feeling better, I started what I called a morning mile. And a mile was a lot for me then, like a lot.
mm,
And it was like a big challenge. And I was like, well, if I did that for the day, then I'm already like far exceeding my old expectations.
yeah.
And just every time, just getting closer and closer to listening to what my body needs
Mm,
and being gentle with myself instead of scalding myself for not feeling like studying that day or being too tired,
mm,
actually giving myself that rest so that tomorrow I
yeah.
can study and
Yeah.
planning ahead for my future self, knowing that I don't want to be in a situation where I have to cram and
Yeah.
put myself under stress. Always thinking of, how can I work in the present to prevent my future self from suffering, but also live in the present and
Mm.
be mindful and here and fully enjoying this moment.
Yeah. And that gentle to yourself, I say that as a kindness to yourself. So being kind to yourself. So just on your moments through your healing, was there a moment when you realized I've turned the corner in my healing?
It was slow. I'm not gonna
Mm.
lie to you. It was, I mean, probably 3 years
Yeah.
before I was like, wow, I've done it, you know? And I think so many people expect it to be much quicker than that and end up giving up. And you got to think about it though. I spent 17 years
Yeah.
putting my health last and putting my stress first. Of course, it's going to take some time for my body to readjust and heal and
Yeah.
recalibrate. Um, Something that I tell people, if you think about how you would treat your best friend versus how you
Yeah.
would treat yourself in any situation, I say be your own best friend because you could easily berate yourself over a mistake you've made. You could easily, you know, be mad at yourself for not being more productive. But when you're acting as your own best friend, if your own best friend came to you and said, I don't feel that I'm being productive enough, you would be gentle, you would be gracious, you would be accommodating. And it's just such a different thing to hear yourself talk to yourself in that way and realize
Mm.
that you would never speak to another human like that.
Yeah.
And shifting that self-talk
Yeah.
was just as important as shifting the diet and the exercise and all of that.
Mm. I resonate with that fully because that's what I give advice to people is talk to yourself like you are talking to your best friend. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's yeah, wonderful advice you're giving there. So in our hustle culture, burnout almost feels normal.
Hmm.
Why can't we just biohack our way out of it?
That's a great question.
Mm.
I'm working to help people prevent the burnout because once you get there, you have to react, right? I want to
Mm.
be proactive because if you can prevent it and you can do everything every day to not burn yourself out, then you're going to have a much easier time continuing and improving.
Yeah.
If you reach that point of burnout, you are going to have a hard time. That is just the
Mm.
truth. And so many of us put our work or our image or our hustle above everything
Yeah.
else. And it's scary because we almost pride ourselves on the hustle. Oh, I got up at 5 a.m. Um,
Mm.
and I just hear people conversing and trying to one up each other on how hard they've worked themselves. And yes, it's amazing, but once you hit that point of burnout, you will
Yeah.
not have motivation. And it is not a character flaw. It is your biology, it is your
Mm.
hormones, it is your neurotransmitters. You cannot get them to where they need to be.
Mm.
Um, so biohacking your way out of it, I'd love to say you can take vitamins and um, make sure you get enough protein and exercise. But even if you're doing all of that, if you're still hustling and not making time
Mm.
for your nervous system to reset, it's it's not futile because it's definitely
Mm.
going to help you and slow, the damage
Yeah.
when
Yeah.
you're eating healthy and you're exercising and all of that. But if you're not prioritizing your mental health, your self-talk, your general attitude toward what you're doing, and your willingness to take time to
Mm.
focus on that energetic health and your underlying systems health,
Yeah.
it can happen to anyone, even the healthiest of us.
Yeah. So further on that, what did rest boundaries and lifestyle changes play compared to supplements and protocols?
So, of course, I did both sides.
Mm,
Because one, I wanted to cover everything,
yeah,
and two, I'm a protocol type girl.
yeah.
Um, how did they differ? I would say the vitamins and the changes on paper that I made were very important
Mm,
to establish that trust with myself too, to show myself that I'm doing all of these things and I'm doing it because I acknowledge that I have not been treating my body the way that I should, and I'm
mm,
listening now and I'm trying to give it what it needs. But so much more than putting the right things in, it's making sure that your body now knows how to handle those things.
mm,
That you put yourself in rest and digest so that the food that you're eating, the beautiful plate that you've made, is turning into the nutrients that will fuel you
yeah.
instead of going to, a stress response and not being digested properly.
Mm,
Um, so like I said, you can do everything right on paper, but not feel right. And that's because you're not acknowledging the soul that needs acknowledging, that
mm,
the person that you are either suppressing or trying to present instead of who you need to be to just
mm,
be free and peaceful in yourself. I think putting on a mask in your daily life is just as much a cause of burnout as all of the other things, because
mm,
when you're not in alignment with yourself, you're not in integrity, you don't have all of your pieces meeting with the same purpose and placement, you're not going to feel right. You're not going to have
mm,
it's that wholeness, that freedom to be yourself, and it is a scary journey, but it
mm.
is just as important as all of the other things in
Yeah.
biohacking.
Yeah.
It's yeah.
Yeah. So further in regards to the healing, how did addressing things like inflammation, trauma, and environment change your results?
Inflammation is everything. I love studying oxidative stress, and that was my first research. I did material science and engineering. I made these nanoparticles that were meant to be anti-inflammatory, um, and just learning about every human disease ever being characterized by
Yeah.
inflammation, including aging and I mean cancer, diabetes, cardiovascular, neurodegenerative disease. It's unequivocally impossible to ignore.
Mm,
Um, and what you said about trauma and your upbringing, I think, is so important because we didn't know any better at the time that it wasn't what we needed.
mm,
Or even now, we could look back and be like, my childhood was fine compared to what I've heard from other people. It doesn't mean that when you were that young, sensitive, malleable age that you got the care that you needed to be your most healthy mentally and physically self. Um, so looking back into that trauma and trying to understand everything that has created your belief systems, how you hold yourself, how you feel you need to show up in the world, whether it's perfectionism or attaining attention through negative means, anything. Understanding yourself is the key to loving yourself. I
mm,
always say you can't have love without understanding, because if you don't understand, you can't be gentle, you can't have compassion. It's a silly example, but I used to tell my mom, instead of saying, go do the dishes, if she would say, I'm having a rough day, it would be really nice if somebody would do the dishes. Oh my gosh, what a big difference in my willingness to do that, you know? Um, so just understanding, okay, instead of just saying, I need to turn my whole life around, it's, I understand now what I've been doing wrong this whole time. And now I'm that much more willing to make the changes because I can have that compassion at this point.
Yeah. Yeah. And Sammy, how did you trust your body as the ultimate lab?
Hmm. Took a long time to trust my body,
Mm.
actually. Um, Especially in the sense that when I was struggling my most and I wanted to go and do all of these amazing things, my friends would invite me on trips with them. And my goodness, it was so intimidating. Even just, I remember a day trip with my college friends. They would be like, okay, we're going to drive to Disney or whatever. And I was living in Orlando at this point, but driving 30 minutes there and back and walking around was huge to me. And I was so afraid of holding my friends back or having to leave early, but I didn't want to drive myself because that took it out of me. So I was always like trying to find ways to make it easier on myself because I didn't think I was going to make it. But I developed that trust by doing it, putting myself in those
Mm.
situations, especially in my travels, because I remember every day I would wake up with the itinerary and freak out. Am I going to make it? Am I going to hold everyone back? And, how am I going to do this? And then every day by the end of the day, realizing I did it and everything I was afraid of, yes, there was suffering involved, but I learned to trust that even if I was in pain, my body was still going to work. And that
Mm.
gratitude that, you know, my body works. How
Mm.
lucky am I that I did climb that hill and, my calves are burning and whatever, but it's a beautiful thing because what a privilege.
Yeah.
Um, and just over and over showing myself, those moments of I'm afraid to do this, and then you have to look back after you've done it and remember I was afraid,
Yeah.
and next time I'm afraid, I'm going to remember that I can do it and
Mm.
remember the feeling at the end. And having people do that, clients and whatnot, is such a powerful practice just to remember that you can have all of those feelings and those fears,
Mm.
but trust that you're going to make it through no matter what.
Yeah. And throughout your healing, was it hard to balance your scientific training with your intuitive guidance?
Yeah,
Mm.
for sure. And I'm still trying to find that middle ground between science and soul.
Yeah.
I think I was very scientific at first, and then I got
Yeah.
into some science-based soul work that had, proof behind it. And then I was, seeing that even if you don't have a formula for these things, all of the historical documents, all of these religions, all of these, you know, beautiful meditative practices that people have been doing
Mm.
for so many years and seeing beautiful effects from, just because it's not a, you know, published peer-reviewed journal doesn't mean it's
Mm.
not effective.
Exactly.
And it's clearly, you know, a very important part of the work, and you can't have full success without exploring both of those areas, especially
Mm.
when I say soul, I mean understanding yourself. And that's just as much the psychology and the biology as it is the soul, because you're trying to acknowledge who you truly are and live as that person.
Mm.
And it's not so easy to do. I think so many people are unsatisfied with their lives. And when you step back, you're unsatisfied because you don't know what you want. If you knew what you want, you would know how to get it and you would be able
Mm.
to move toward it. But you don't take the time to even know what matters to you as a
Mm.
soul rather than as a person that's influenced by all of these things in society and, everything you've heard from when you were a child and soaked in like a sponge, and all of these thoughts in your head that are projections of all the things that you've heard, but not necessarily you. I try
Mm.
to I try to emphasize that you are not your thoughts. You are the person watching the thoughts.
Yeah.
So people beat themselves up for having thoughts or think that that's who they are if they have a judgmental thought or something like that. No, it's a program.
Mm.
It's it's just that you've been surrounded by all of these things your whole life, but you can sit there, have that thought, ask yourself, does this resonate with who I really am, or did I get this from
Mm.
somewhere else along the way?
Mm.
And as soon as you realize, no, I don't want to be a judgmental person. That's not who I am at my soul level. Then you can change your thought, and soon enough, your second thought that you purposefully change the first thought to becomes your first thought.
Mm.
And you're able to live more authentically as you are, and you see the world from an entirely different, more beautiful lens.
Mm. Wise advice there, Sammy. And further on that, for someone listening right now, what's one way they can start tuning into their own body today?
Hmm. So, one thing that I used to have my mom do when I was struggling to make decisions is I would say, here are the two options, just pick one.
Mm.
Because I struggled to answer questions for myself and to feel my, you know, intuition. I never like taught myself how to do it,
Mm.
but there was something in when she would pick an option, I could feel it. Whether it was, you're totally right, I should do that one, or no, no, I don't think that's right. Like in my chest, in my stomach, those feelings, getting to know what feels like a yes in your body and what feels like a no in your body. And
Mm.
honestly, writing or
Mm.
speaking aloud, um, you can record yourself. Sometimes I go on solo hikes and I just talk about what's been bothering me, about what I want to change, about, what I want people to know, what I want to talk about on my
Mm.
next podcast. Um, and it's so powerful to slow down and filter the thoughts through speech
Mhm.
or through writing.
Yeah.
When I sit down with a problem and I start writing, of course, I'm first addressing the problem, but by the end of it, I was my own therapist and I came out on the other side and it's beautiful.
Mm.
So, allowing yourself to have that time, that structured time to, you don't need a prompt for your journal, just free flow form writing. You can do it when you first wake up in the morning. Just start writing, even if it's like, this is stupid, I've never done this before. Just keep going.
Yeah.
And it gives you that slower, easier to notice connection to your thoughts instead of just letting them run through all day. You're putting them on paper, you're saying them aloud, and then you might realize how ridiculous they are.
Mm.
Um, so getting into that, what are you holding that you need to discuss with yourself
Yeah. It's
always comes out on the page.
it's sort of like moving them on, and it's either move them on to do nothing about, or move them out of what's in your brain, or move them on
Mhm.
to action them. Yeah. Yeah. So, Sammy, what inspired you to turn your healing into a movement?
There are so many things that are considered normal that just will never make sense to me.
Mm.
And it's so clear to me that there is a different way to live than we are all choosing to call normal.
Yeah.
Um, the like we were discussing before we started recording, the separation, the
Mm.
divide that is slowly occurring between people that doesn't need to be there,
Mm.
especially, in politics and all of those things. We're able to have civil discourse and
Mm.
compromise and talk to each other, but something about the way we're moving is scary because if we can't talk without feeling like, oh, if you don't have my opinion, we can't be civil,
Mm,
it's, I mean, all of the beautiful work we've ever done has been coming together with different opinions and coming out on the other side with compromise. Um, so I just want to see a world where people prioritize their health, they work preventatively so that they don't have to go through things. So many people wait until there's a tragedy in their life
mm,
or they get a diagnosis or something horrible happens that opens their eyes to, I wish I had done things differently. And I want people to get in touch with themselves now
mm,
so that they don't live a life full of regrets, so that they have no regrets because they know their values, they know what matters to them, and they can shape every decision around that. Um, and once I figured all of that out for myself and how powerful the mind is, my goodness, it baffles me every day. Um, Once you
mm,
realize the power that you have over your entire life and your entire self just by putting your attention in different places and shifting your perspectives,
mm,
or realizing that your perspective is so limited and that you have your blind spots, man, instead of, you know, feeling criticized when somebody points something out that I was doing, I'm like, oh my gosh, thank you. I know I have my
yeah,
blind spots. Like I relish in the opportunity to reveal them to myself because I don't want to be offending anybody when I don't mean to be offending anybody or anything
mm,
silly like that. So there is something to the humility of acknowledging that you are so far from where you could be and just better every day. That's my motto. As long as I'm going to bed at night thinking, am I better than I was yesterday in some small capacity? Did I, you know, do something that I wouldn't have done before that
yeah,
I made myself uncomfortable, but I grew? Or did I, instead of snapping when I felt an emotion, you know, go through it with myself and then react in a calm manner? Anything small like that is
mm,
powerful. And as long as every day we're learning from our mistakes and from our successes and from those of others, I'm proud of you.
yeah. I think the message there is that we've got to be kind to ourselves and we're only human and some days we won't show up in our best selves and other days we will. So yeah, great advice there, Sammy. And what message do you want people to take away from your story?
I think most of all, don't wait to change your life.
Mm,
Don't wait until you're forced to.
yeah.
Focus on your health. Don't wait until you're so unsatisfied with your situation that you finally start to listen to what your soul is telling you your true purpose is instead of what society
Mm,
says you should be doing or what, financially makes more sense. I want people to live in their integrity, to understand themselves as a whole, and then to follow that self
mm,
along through life with making decisions in accordance to your values, understanding what you want, understanding what you'd regret not doing and what you'd regret doing.
mm,
And I want everybody to be able to look back when they're 80 years old and have no regrets. Just
yeah.
know that they fulfilled their full potential because they understood what their potential and their purpose was, and that they didn't waste any time suffering when they didn't have to suffer. There are so
Mm,
many people that are stuck in this loop of whether it be holding grudges or just negativity loops or
mm,
agreeing with a perception that they don't ever look to debunk. Like so many people are thinking, oh, nobody wants to be around me. But then you're self-fulfilling because when you are around people, you're negative
yeah.
and you don't want to be around people because you don't like that feeling. So you're sequestering yourself, and loneliness is horrible for our health. We know that.
Mm,
It's it's all of those things that we need to learn about ourselves and we need to act upon that will be so powerful with every little decision that you make, even if you're regretful of the decision you just made. Every next best decision, just make the next best decision. Even if you've binged on mini cupcakes all morning, you don't need to continue your day
mm,
binging on other sweets. You could say, my next best decision is to go for a walk, or my
mm.
next best decision is to eat some carrots, you know?
Yeah.
And moving forward from that and not letting your past constrict you so much.
Mm,
You don't need to be stuck there. You don't need to suffer over something that happened and that you can't control in any capacity. You can
yeah.
learn from it, you can acknowledge it, you can love the lessons from it and let it go.
Mm. So, Semi, what's next for Shine In and Out?
Oh, I got a lot of stuff brewing and I just I jump on so many ideas, but
Mm,
my biggest, most exciting ones right now is I'm trying to build a community of people that are growing together and are vulnerable and real, that we
mm.
can share what worked for us, what didn't work for us. We can discuss everything. And I'm trying to build an app
Yep.
that is your best life's dashboard. So it's going to be curriculum, it's going to be your journal, it's going to be AI helping you schedule
Mm,
good habits and self-care into your routine that connects to your already existing calendar. It's
mm-hmm,
you rating how you feel that day and getting in touch with yourself, and then it helping you come up with ways to care for yourself based on how you're feeling.
mm-hmm.
Um, it's just a one-stop shop for creating the best version of yourself in the best version of your life. And so much of that is also going to be the community of people that are doing this and working together. And all of the social media today is the best. The best of your life is what you're showing.
Mm,
I want us to show everything, to be real,
yeah.
to share, and to show you that it's okay to not be a millionaire at 20, and it's okay to, you know, not know what you're doing and to be in that liminal space between who you thought
Mm,
you were and who you want to be. It's it's a journey and we're all on it together and we all
mm,
have these common human emotions and we all think we're alone in these experiences, but yes, you have your unique experience and that is a beautiful thing because no one will ever have this moment the way it is occurring for you right now.
yeah.
But yeah, we need to we need to acknowledge that
Yeah. I
we have
can't
so much
wait.
more power. Yeah.
Yeah. I can't wait for your app to be designed. I'm sure our listeners will be very eager to see what will come from that as well. So, just on that, where can our listeners learn more about you and about Shine In and Out?
So right now, because the app isn't fully built yet, I have the
Mm.
beta version and people can check it out at shineinandout.com.
Yeah.
Um, but my coaching website is shineinandoutcoaching.com.
Mm-hmm.
And you can email me at shineinandoutcoaching@gmail.com. My Instagram is at shine.in dot the letter N dot out, shine in and out. Um, I'm on YouTube with my podcast. I'm on
Mm-hmm.
Spotify with my podcast, Shine In and
Yeah.
Out. Um, and I'm just gonna keep putting out more of what I think the world needs,
Yeah.
more of what we need to hear, more of what we need to focus on, more of the beautiful things that are often overpowered by the bad news or the
Mm.
negative things.
Yeah.
Um, and I'm trying to also work on ways to help people make it easier to be healthy in their daily lives. We're all
Yeah.
so busy. So I want to help us like work toward an individualized protocol, but also I'm working on like a drink formula where you can have a morning
Okay.
drink and a night drink. And instead of like me having a entire pantry full of pill bottles that I ignore because taking 80 pills a day is horrendous.
Mm,
Giving you what you need that works with your biology and your circadian rhythm, and giving you that ritual of sitting with your drink, having that mindful time in the morning and before bed,
mhm,
um, is something that I'm hoping I can gift to people to just make that part of the journey that much easier. You don't need to do
mm.
all of this research like I did. You don't need to
Yeah.
get every single supplement and pay thousands of dollars, that you can just have a one-stop shop that you can trust and that you can build off of
Mm,
in every way, with the app, with the vitamin drink, with everything that I'm trying to build, the community, the understanding of oneself,
yeah.
the journey, and that it's okay to be on a journey, that you don't need to know
Mm,
what you're doing. Nobody does.
yeah.
Um, and learning to listen to your body and your
Yeah.
heart and your soul and
Yeah.
just living your best life.
Yeah. Well, we look forward to all your new ventures in the future and we'll be looking out
Thank
for
you.
those. So, if a listener is in the middle of a burnout right now, what's the first gentle step you'd tell them to take?
I would say acknowledge that you're there,
Mm,
understand why you're there, look at your habits, try to understand what has contributed to this and what agreements that you have with yourself that don't necessarily need to be there. Um, Rethink what is a priority for you. Write
mm,
down your values, try to get in touch with yourself, and try to start living from that gentle point of, I will do what I can. My body, isn't at full capacity. I don't need to be on all the time. I don't need to fill out a tens of hundreds of checklist items a day. I just need to embody the person that I want to be. I have to be kind to myself, and I have to move forward and be better every day and make time to care for myself, just as I would make time to study for my exam or put in that report for work.
mm,
Um, just prioritizing yourself, realizing that if you're suffering with burnout, the best thing you can do is feel that joy of finally prioritizing yourself. Because if you're burnt out, you probably haven't been.
mm. Well, thank you, Sammy. Your story isn't such a powerful reminder that healing isn't about science and or soul, it's about both. When we listen to our bodies, honor our energy, and create space for recovery, we just don't survive, we shine. So thank you, Sammy, for sharing your experience and your healing and your wisdom with us today.
Thank you so much, Nikki. It's been a pleasure and an honor, and I can't wait to see all of the future success of Positive Vibes. I'm so glad you're sharing your message with the world.
Thank you, Sammy. This is Positive Vibes with Nicki Dennis. Until next time, keep choosing wellness, keep choosing joy, and keep shining from the inside out. Sending you all love and positive vibes. Bye for now.